But that review complains the characters would lack believable motivations, which I think I just rebuted, but mainly also that they would just have cliché motivations, which doesn't equal them being nonsensical. Clichés exist for a reason. I mean, many people fall in love because someone else understands them and they can share things. Many people have sex with another person for lust. Those are clichés, yet they make perfect sense. There's so many clichés in life. People make war upon other people because they're greedy for power and they're not capable of sharing. I mean, do I need to mention all cliches that are true? And to mention that it would have cliches like a reluctant leader allowing his crew to participate for money, but it's made original in this. It's that the government isn't just purely selfish trying to use them, they are just desperate to help the survivors, so they're trying to use the oil drillers' greed against them for a dangerous mission, but to help innocent people, and there's real tension because both of them do want to help those people and get the best results, but the military just values them less. And they want to secure the nuclear weapons on there to make sure they can defend themselves against the Russians, and this is an original dimension, and the smart is indeed the military is in a dangerous area, so they would want its nuclear weapons secured as quickly as possible. And so this also made perfect sense, as of course they would need to have their nuclear weapons secured, as Russians could be nearby and they could otherwise get them and use them against them. And so they are only endangering the crew, not out of some sense of wanting to achieve a greedy goal, but just because their security priorities are different from those from the crew. But sometimes they also come together, so it's very three-dimensional, it isn't one-dimensional, it isn't black and white, it's ambiguous, it's unpredictable, because they are trying to work together at first, and the military doesn't openly backstab them or anything. And also Virgin originally isn't against making money, he's just careful, and he also does like to make money, he just doesn't want his crew necessarily endangered, and he's just has enough foresight to foresee that the military might use them. And the reviewer constantly negatively compares this to Cameron's other movies, mainly Aliens. I might need to go back to drinking alcohol because of that, but yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and review like an amateur critic now, because this is causing me brain damage. My EQ is dropping. That's actually possible. But so you're criticizing a movie solely for the fact its basics aren't original, which few movies are, but then yet you praise Cameron's other movies, who always used to tell older stories while adding original elements, especially Aliens, and also Alien the original. I know you're not comparing it to that, but you probably liked it as you like Aliens, but even not, it's relevant because it's the original to Alien. Oh my god, I'm dragging this. Yeah, I told you my IQ is getting lower. Next take. I mean, Aliens had a naive military guerrilla warfare conflict, and a corrupt company screwing people over as well, and a reluctant heroine going back to face her fears, to restart her life and finding new love when having lost old love with another person who has the same dilemma, which is nude. I mean, Alien had corporate corruption and had the crew reluctantly going to see the alien, some also because of money, but those films are brilliant, and this film someone shouldn't possibly claim would be half as good. I mean, you know, with me eating this much macaroni, instead of becoming Catholic, I should just worship the spaghetti monster. I need to watch less Scrubs. So they find the submarine and... oh fuck it. They find the submarine, and everybody turns out to be dead, and Coffee gets the keys to the nuclear weapons, and these are both smart twists, as indeed when the submarine floods deep underwater, it is likely all in it would die, and the military would certainly secretly want to make sure they kept all the nuclear weapons on their safe side, so that they could use them later on, and could keep them away from the enemy. And then one of the crew members sees a strange creature, and so he panics, which if you're underwater, is believable, and already immediately causes him to panic, and so he hits himself against the wall, and so his mixture gets screwed up, which is believable and logical, as he hits himself hard and seeing unknown things. He thereby goes very hard, because being underwater is really scary anyways, and of course, mixture can quickly get screwed up underwater as they are very hard conditions. So that was entirely believable and smart. And then the military thinks that it might be Soviets, as they saw two of theirs nearby, which is believable, as when a sub crashes it could very well be an ambush, and so they order Coffee to secure a nuclear warhead, which is believable as they need to defend themselves, and there the conflict between the military and the drilling crews really paid off, as they take a submarine without their permission, meaning they cannot unhook from the ship at the surface in time, which is believable and really clever, as the military knows about their safety procedures, and it really takes advantage of the early set of military tension, really incorporating it into the plot, and in fear, they of course course act reckless, and as a result they endanger them, really using the tension between the two factions, and this endangers the whole rig, and it is made really heavy, and also the fear of the Russians through the lack of knowing what the creatures are and the characters debating about them is really giving meaning also. This film really succeeds at being meaningful, and so this film creates new stakes which are very high and dramatic, the safety of the whole crew. Also, what is original about this is that the government isn't trying to screw them over, they just act in fear, but weren't planning to use them. And what is also really smart and logical is that when they get back, the storm causes the cable and the crane that holds the platform up to move too much, which is believed by storm effect underwater conditions, and then the storm causes the platform to start going down, which is smart as a storm strongly affects underwater currents, and so they are too late to disconnect, having the storm pay off very well, and thereby incorporating that element into the plot as well, beyond just causing tension, because it causes the crane to break loose and almost crashes on them, which is believable as storms often damage ships very heavily even nowadays, and it misses them but it falls down and drags down the platform, and the fast movement causes damage to the ship, which is sensible as so deep underwater crashing can do great damage to a very sensitive platform, and it makes sense that the cable could drag them down. The IMDb I already reviewed it earlier, complained it couldn't as it was just one crane compared to a solid rig, but the crane was helping it stay up and the storm already caused it to move on a sloppy surface. Hey, I like sloppy surfaces. High five! You know what, every time I reference Scrubs, I'm just gonna stab myself with this spoon. I'm gonna get a fork. And then I'm gonna do this joke all over again, okay? So, next take. So I'm just gonna stab myself every time with this fork. Yeah. It's pleasurable on some level. What? I'm not the only one who thinks that. Also, this is really original also and very fresh element in the film, especially at the time that many films have borrowed from since, that environmental conditions really are dangerous in such close-up places and that they really even overwhelm their own technology, and that it also just requires a lot of safety procedures to overcome these, and that these are really relevant to trying to stay alive. Also, during this, the rigs get damaged and there's flooding, killing many crew members, and Virgil tries to save them, telling them to cut the hose. Hey, I could cut you. I hit a major archery, but it is worth it. But now I actually do need to remember Scrubs. What should I do now? Maybe call 911, but I hope I could fix myself. And oh, it's already getting on the floor. That's kind of a nuisance. So much blood because it totally ruins my clothes. So he tells them to cut the hoses, so the automatic security doors won't be forced shut, which shut unfortunately during a flooding because of safety measures, but they cannot hear him due to being underwater, and this was really smart and original also, as indeed underwater and drowning, you cannot quickly respond well, and security doors really do sometimes trap people in most emergency situations, and this is really original, also really showing the real life downsides of security systems. But I'm still always going to have my doors closed, in any situation. I don't care what my parents or my sister or anyone says. I want the doors closed while we're driving in the car. I don't care that we're close to a river. We're gonna have the door closed, damn it. Okay, now I feel good again. Also, Limsey and her team save a lot of the rig and a crew member by extinguishing the fire, which is believable as they were prepared for crises like this, and Hippie tries to convince the worker to get out of the dangerous room, but he stubbornly stays because he wants to stubbornly put out the fire and dies, and Hippie is a bit of a coward, so he runs and lives, which is believable as he's quickly scared, so he would run, and he's very well trained, so he could escape properly. So then Virgil escapes as his ring gets stuck in between the door and the wall when the flooding reaches his room, and he is calm and disciplined enough to tell them to cut the hose and gets out, so that was very believable and an in-character twist, as although not as much as he would like to think, Virgil is often good at staying calm, and that IMDb article complains that characters survive based on coincidences, and this is basically the only example it gives. And what do you mean? This is one incident. Is that so rare in a camera movie or in movies? I mean, life never has coincidences, especially when it comes to death. You're totally right. And it's complete that symbolism doesn't get much more forced and obvious than his ring he never takes off, saving him. The sexualized poster that symbolizes free life being the gated of the prison of Shawshank Redemption, a red rose on Schindler's List being laid on Schindler's grave by himself, Bill getting hit by his ex-lover in his heart, the X-Men fighting Magneto in the Statue of Liberty, Anakin and Obi-Wan fighting next to lava, the half-man, half-machine face in Terminator 2, the cat in The Godfather, Ripley calling the alien queen a bitch, anything in Avatar, anything in Forrest Gump, anything in Blade Runner, anything in Lord of the Rings, anything in the Bible. Okay, I'm done. Symbolism is a part of every form of fiction, and it is often obvious because it is fiction. So it then stops at the cliff, which is smart as there it would stop sliding. So that was a smart twist as well. So then they need to re-rub powers, they're gonna freeze, which is smart as underwater it can be freezing cold, and it creates more tension, so they have to go outside to fix it, which is clever, as indeed the power inside the ship could damage as they crashed very badly. And it's also very fun that they have an original scenario of freezing underwater, because you often have freezing scenarios in space, in science fiction movies, and in snowy landscapes, but very rarely underwater. And also the communications are jammed, meaning they cannot get help in the emergency situations, which adds to the tension. And then she meets an alien creature and she sees it as really moving and has an organic form, so assumes that it's an alien, while others don't, which is also believable. She saw them up close and others did not. Hippie assumes that they're special government crafts, and this only makes people more skeptical towards Lindsay's ideas, which is smart, as in weird situations people often start conspiracy theories, and that only makes others all the more skeptical. And Lindsay gets Virgil on her side, as they still have a lot of understanding for each other, as they used to have a strong relationship, and he still has feelings for her, so it is logical that he would trust her, as he still has strong feelings for her, so would automatically put a lot of faith in anything that she had to say, and wouldn't be skeptical of the ideas she had. And Coffee and the SEALs then arm a nuclear weapon, as they want to prepare to fight the aliens, who they assume are Russians, which is believable as they are paranoid, as they are Cold War fighters, and they have seen Soviet crafts nearby. And Hippie spies on them, which is believable as he's really paranoid, also using a remote control craft, which is really original and smart, using cameras underwater hidden within mundane looking crafts. And it makes sense, you can remote control machines underwater, and this part is really given weight, that now Coffee is cut off from the chain of command and is in charge while being psychotic due to pressure sickness. And he's in charge of the SEALs, and they cannot contact the service, so they have to act on their own. And Virgil and Lindsay and the crew cannot get help to deal with him, as they are cut off from the servants, and he is armed as well, so he's incredibly dangerous, and he's a trained fighter, and he's got other SEALs under his command. So they want to get footage of the aliens to be sure of what the aliens are, which makes sense, as this could support their case. And what is really original here is that many people actually support the theory they're aliens, and it's also very interesting that Coffee starts spying on them. It shows that both sides are paranoid equally, and it is really original, and also it's original that this happens not within a governmental agency, but on a confined rig. This creates even more tension, as they are stuck underwater, and it makes sense Coffee, after criticized them for having a nuke, would be paranoid of them, especially when they disobey them. That is really sad, that when people are critical of him, he gets so violent and wants to hurt all of them. Because violence never solves anything. What? I'm not gonna make a sarcastic comment. I've got a good psychologist now. I'm becoming nicer. Why don't you believe me? I really am trying. Right, fine. If you won't give me a chance, I'm gonna go back to murdering Protestants. See how you like that. I bet you do like it. You're a sick fuck. You're messed up in the head. Screw you. So then the aliens make contact with them by using their ability to control water to have a tentacle make contact with them, and as they see it take on the form of their faces and smile, they see it as friendly, which is believable that as they make peaceful contact by just looking around and by smiling at them and just getting to know them, they assume they are friendly. And Coffee sees the tentacle and Scarab as such a weird being and therefore closes the door, splitting the tentacle in two, causing the alien to flee, creating tension of what will happen and of whether they angered the aliens also. And it makes sense Coffee would get paranoid, as he is incredibly afraid of the Russians and sees such a strange being on board. And that Coffee now knows they're aliens but he believably translates his paranoia on them is believable, as they were looking at the ward and he's getting incredibly unstable, and he fears that they were the ones responsible for all the crashes. Yeah, he should nuke them, just like we should have done in Iraq. What? You wanted me to be a stereotype? Make up your mind, you dumb fucks. So Coffee decides to nuke the aliens using their remote control on the watercraft, but in his paranoia he doesn't give them enough time to escape, and so this creates a really smart and well-explained conflict. Coffee now wants to nuke the aliens as he thinks they are dangerous and wants to kill them and attack America, so Virgil and his team have to stop them. And they are really good heroes here, wanting to save the innocent aliens, as they value innocent sentient life, and they want to prevent the deaths of their whole crew due to the nuke. So they are likable here, standing up for innocent aliens and their team, and they have really believable and original motivations. They don't do it out of an idealistic desire to meet alien life, they just want to protect them, which is believable, as they are good people, and they also want to save their own lives, of course, as they want to be safe. They've got self-preservation.